Welcome back to the Road to National series. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through an upper dynamic workout. Now, this week I was a mathematical dunce and I got my weight all wrong. So it was supposed to be 75% of my 1 rep max total bar plus band tension. And that was supposed to be 40 kilos of bar weight plus 60 kilos of band tension. And I was just not focusing. And I thought the 2 blue plates are 40 kilos, right? And I didn't take into account the weight of the bar. So this was actually 89% of my 1 rep max. And I was thinking, oh, it's feeling really like sticky and really heavy today. I tried the belt there to see if that would give me more tightness and help. But the truth was I was just lifting almost 15% more on my 1 rep max than I should have been. So the bar speed was actually great for the percentage. But it was just way heavier than I'd planned. So for the next 2 weeks of the 3-week wave, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to drop back to what it should have been, like 80, then 85%. But yeah, opened up way heavier than I was supposed to, but got in an effective training session anyway. Then my first accessory here was incline banded JM press, and this is actually the weight that I should have been using for my dynamic effort, and I'm doing it on like a much more disadvantaged movement with the JM press. These sort of transitioned into almost just close grip press. It wasn't as strict on the form of the JM press as I'd like, but they still hit the triceps effectively. And with the band tension, you particularly work on your explosiveness with the tricep exploding to lockout, which is exactly what we want for powerlifting. Obviously, the whole purpose of all of this is to get better at bench pressing, and particularly training the triceps is to help lock out power. So that went well. Then my next accessory was barbell rows. So I did these at 100 kilos, which is a moderate weight for me. I managed to get like a set of 12 or 15 at 120 kilos the other week, fairly strict. But as I've mentioned in a few previous videos, I'm in a deficit. I'm trying to drop some body fat. And whilst I'm doing that, I'm also going to work on building up a base, more of a GPP base. So that is, I'm going to try and do higher rep work at lower weights on my accessories. One, in the conjugate system, I should be doing that anyway. You don't want your accessories to be too fatiguing. And that's also why I'm backing off a little bit. I'm not pushing quite as much to failure as I was, because I think that was affecting particularly my max effort work, but also my dynamic effort work. They're obviously the main things that I'm supposed to train, and then the accessories are there to bring up weak body parts. So if lockout is a weakness for you, building your triceps is going to help that. So accessories are there to isolate each muscle group or joint action and work on that, but they're also to try and build up muscular size. But for me, I started off doing more bodybuilding style training for a long time, and for my size, I'm not actually that strong. There are people much smaller than me who have much better neurological drive. So I should really be working just on high volume when I'm doing my accessories and trying to keep fatigue low. The accessories are not the thing that should be taking up much of my recovery capacity. So I am doing higher reps. So I did sets of 20 on those barbell rows. Now here, I did go a bit heavier than planned. Honestly, I thought I'd get like sets of 10 because I've done that before, but I think because the dynamic effort was much heavier than planned, it was much more taxing. I just got 2 sets of 5 on this camber bar movement. This was supposed to be like a chest accessory, although it is a movement that I do for like max and dynamic efforts. You can also just use any movement that you like. Just because it's a main lift doesn't mean it can't be an accessory as well. And this is obviously more of a compound lift, but with the camber bar, it gets a huge stretch on the chest. So that's what I was using it for there. Then my next accessory here was just lateral raises. Now I've talked a lot about how I prefer loo raises, which is where you go all the way up to above your head. I used to love lateral raises so much. They were my favorite delt exercises, and now I like loo raises more. However, the best exercise you can do for any body part is a mixture of exercises. So doing these lateral raises, I was able to go heavier. Like I can only do about 4 reps on a loo raise at 15 kilos versus I could get much more volume at a heavy weight with the lateral raises. So just rotate your exercises. That's another core principle of the conjugate training system, because if you do the same thing over and over, you will eventually eventually plateau. That's why I'm not just trying to hit like a max normal bench press every week or like dynamic with normal benching. It's because eventually that would not work. Rotating slight different variations is key, and that is also key for your accessory. So whilst I love the loo raises, the most effective thing for my delts is actually to switch up the exercises from time to time. So moving on to the next accessory, I had like preacher curls using my bench as the preacher pad, like single arm preacher curls. These felt fantastic with the 20 kilo weight. I think this is the most I've ever done with this amount of weight. I've used the 25 kilos before, but only been able to get sets of like 4 or 5. And I think I did sets of 10 here with the 20 kilos. This burned the bicep massively, particularly towards the end of the sets, particularly for the second sets. These first sets on each arm weren't too bad, but during the second sets, you'll see me like afterwards sort of sort of cry out in pain at the end because it was very significant. Now, when it comes to powerlifting and bicep training in general, it is not essential. The point of my accessories here, the last few accessories that I do, this and the next one, is that they're not essential to powerlifting. That's why they're at the end of my workouts. If I feel terrible during a workout, if I feel like sick or run down, I can skip them, but I still find it beneficial just to build the body up in general. Building up the arms, building up the biceps, they are actually a stabilizer on the bench press, particularly when you're doing raw benching. And if you have a wider grip, I have a slightly narrow grip, but if you do have a wider grip and you sort of transfer your weight to one side by accident, the arm that is on the side you've transferred, I have strained my bicep multiple times by doing that on the bench. I've actually never strained my bicep from like curling or doing dedicated bicep work, but I have done it on the bench. So it's more to like condition your body for something like that, like if you do misgroove. But also I would just like to have larger biceps in general, and as long as they're not taking up some of my recovery capacity, as long as I'm training them sensibly and not like going all out and doing loads and loads of sets, loads and loads of reps, it really isn't going to impact my recovery for the things that are actually moving the needle. Like what is far more important for benching and my upper body accessories is upper back work to create a stable platform, the chest to help get the bar off the chest and that sort of midpoint, and then the triceps to help lock out, and the delts a bit. The delts are also involved, but the biceps, they're sort of important, but not really. But I'm also interested in strongman. That is the first competition I actually ever did. And I had loads of fun. I think I'll probably be more competitive in powerlifting because I'm wanting and planning on competing in the IPF. That's the point of this series. The Road to National series is trying to get to nationals in the IPF, which is at least a drug tested sport, and that's why I want to stay in it. Strongman isn't. So that is why I'm prioritizing powerlifting, but I might do strongman for fun, and having strong biceps is essential in that sport. That is used like in so many different events, like things like tire flips, getting it off the ground. Even though you don't want to use your biceps all the time, people have torn way too many biceps on tire flips, but stuff like truck pull, like grabbing the rope and pulling in, things like Atlas stones, it is used all the time in strongman on a log press to keep you tight when you're cleaning it up. So anyway, that is why I still train my biceps, and a little bit for vanity to try and get the arms to look big, which they do in this next shot while I'm training grip. So for my last accessory here, I normally do ab work, but instead I decided to do grip because my last training session, if you watch that, it was a lower max session, and I did some front squats and Zercher squats, and bracing when doing front and Zercher squats. I brace so much harder. You have to basically to try and stop yourself from caving forward, and my abs were wrecked, particularly my obliques at the side from trying to stabilize and trying to brace really hard. So it's no point beating a dead horse. I wasn't going to train my abs when they were so fatigued, so I decided to do grippers instead, just to build up that grip strength. It's always great to have a strong grip, particularly in powerlifting. Obviously for deadlifting, we're not allowed straps, so the worst thing is if you fail a deadlift off grip. It's so frustrating. So that's what I'm working on here, and this camera angle makes the arms look absolutely massive, like in that position there, and I have a little bit of fun like posing at the end after this, just messing around. But essentially, that is it for this workout. Next workout is my lower dynamic, where I get to test out my new belt for deadlifting. So I normally deadlift beltless, but I've got a thinner, smaller belt, which I think I'll be able to use because I struggle to use the big, thick belt, which is why I've not used that. There we go, some vanity posing here. So anyway, that is it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe, click the bell, all that good stuff, and have a great day.